Stop this nonsense, Basby. The two of us fighting each other does not benefit His Majesty one bit.
I came here to kill His Majesty, remember?
On the next all-new Bleach, 1,000-Year Blood War.
I told you to stop.
Stop, Bastard Black!
Bleach, 1,000-Year Blood War, The Conflict. Next Saturday at 12:30 a.m. Only Toonami on Adult Swim. On the next all-new episode of Blue Lock.
My first match at Blue Lock, and everything hinges on it. This is do or die.
Hey, what are you doing, Raichi? Rules are the top scorer goes through even if we lose. I'm surviving this my own way.
You're speaking my language, punk.
Blue Lock. New episode next Saturday at 1 a.m.
It's my lucky day!
Only Toonami on Adult Swim.
Hello, listeners. This is our podcast, Toonami Therapy. We're recording February 11th of 2026. I'm Michael.
Yeah, hello. I'm Tommy.
And, well, I guess we can just get right to... Oh, no, wait, there was something to mention first about it. Because we have we have new information about what's happening. We know that the next series on Toonami is going to be Rooster Fighter, which has not aired yet and is actually going to air on Toonami before it premieres in Japan, which is notable.
Space Dandy did that, right?
Space Dandy did that, but it only did it by a few hours, I think. It was less than a day. I think some of the stuff that Toonami produced might have premiered on Toonami, but I don't think that they had anything to do with the production of Rooster Fighter. It's just, a series that was already being made, and it looks like they got the rights to it and to air it before Japan. So yeah, that was kind of surprising. I think I'm not 100% sure how long this season of Primal will be. If it's the same length as the previous seasons, I think it will be ending 1 week after Bleach. So I think Rooster Fighter is going to be the Bleach replacement. I think the timing works for that, though I'd have to double check to be sure. But that's what it looks like to me.
Now,
is it?
This Rooster Fighter, so do we have any idea what it's about?
Oh, it's about a rooster who fights. But it is based on a manga. So it's like a pre-existing thing. Yeah, they aired a promo for it actually on Toonami, but
they did. I didn't see it.
Yeah. I can't remember exactly what it said. I just got, okay, there's this guy who's a rooster and he fights monsters, I think. So that's what it basically looked like. It's my understanding that it's kind of on Wikipedia it describes as its genres action, comedy, and parody. So obviously this is going to be something that's presumably going to be a bit tongue-in-cheek.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll see. Like I said, this is based on a manga. I actually don't really know that much about the manga, but I know it exists. All right, so that's information there. And that's another time when a series is being replaced and there's no Don back. Which just makes me wonder, why did they tease the next season by airing the first episode if they weren't gonna, go right to it?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's so weird.
Yeah, maybe they just had all this stuff lined up and agreed upon before. I don't know. It just is a little weird that they did that. Maybe the people who who like made Don, well, or at least the licensors, they like went to Toonami and said, "Hey, we'll give you the next episode for free if you air it. We're not going to give you anything else, but that'll make it so that people will want to go and check it out on, Crunchyroll or whatever. We'll just give it to you for free and you can air it." That sounds good, doesn't it? Maybe they did that. All right. So we'll then move on to the actual series. So we've got Primal episode 4. All right. So in this episode, well, we cut back. We actually focus on Mira now and Fang's kids and the village they were at, which gets attacked by these like monster dogs that they manage to fight off, but the dogs takes a bunch of like some of the villagers to their den. So some of the people are going on to try to go rescue them, including Fang and also Mira, who's doing this which is weird because she's pregnant at this point. So I'm like, why is she on the big quest to rescue them? Anyway, they end up meeting up with some more of those monsters, have to fight them, and then Zombie Spear just shows up at the end of the episode. I thought this was easily, well, maybe not easily, but it was definitely the best episode of this season. It actually focused much more on stuff that I was interested in. I thought like Spear could not hold up the show by itself, but when we've got like Fang and Mira and other things, it just was much more interesting to me. Although I could have done without that scene where where the giant like dog monster thing just like nurses the other ones. I saw some people saying, in a series that's got all this violence, somehow that was the most disturbing thing in it. All right. So what did you think?
What did I think? I didn't even see it. So, yeah, I've kind of
yeah, you told me that beforehand, but you didn't say it to the listeners. So sorry, I interrupted.
Yeah.
Keep going.
I kind of dropped Primal, so I made it through 3 episodes, so you can't fault me for that. But yeah, Primal just doesn't interest me. I'm sure there's some people who find it interesting, but I'm not one of them. So there you go.
Well, that's a shame because I thought this was like the best episode of the season and it actually got me interested in the series again. So we'll see going forward on things, I guess. But yeah, I thought that, I don't know, just having Fang around, I liked her kids. They were actually kind of surprisingly cute for T-Rexes. Yeah, just a pretty solid episode that had an actual plot rather than just Spear doing stuff by himself. All right, so we've got Bleach, episode 36.
Okay, so unfortunately, it looks like Mayuri is not going to die because Nemu goes and sacrifices herself to save him, and Mayuri wins the battle with a weird moment with Sazo Aporo, the Rancor, showing up. I didn't know if he had actually shown up or if that was a hallucination or what, but that happened, and Mayuri wins the battle, but he's badly hurt, so he has to be gone and put into this incubator thing along with Kenpachi, and they take out Rangiku and Toshiro. And Mayuri says that their lifespans have been greatly reduced. So I'm thinking, oh, so is this like the Death Note thing where, you ask for the eyes and then you lose half your lifespan? So that's what we got there. But basically, this episode is Nemo dies and Mayuri wins. And that's it.
One thing I came to the conclusion from this episode, which I guess might have been obvious before, but it was really obvious. It's the only explanation for it. When Myri goes on one of his like spiels of explanation of how the attack will work on everything, and he's telling it to Nemu. Nemu's the only one there, and she presumably already knows all of this stuff or can figure it out, but he still goes through the explanation. And I'm thinking, okay, at this point, it's just obvious. Myri just likes to hear himself talk. Like that is why he goes in these long explanations. He just likes to hear himself talk. That is the only explanation. Yeah, I thought it was a kind of fun episode on the whole. It's just so weird when I'm thinking, oh wow, this interesting stuff about his backstory with Nemu and stuff, and I'm thinking, remember when he was like physically abusing her in their first appearance? Like really badly.
Yeah.
I'm just like, did the author forget about that, or did he just like, ignored it, or what? Is this like what the joke people always say? Oh, a Rocky forgot. Well, maybe Kubo forgot.
Well, he wasn't very nice to Nemo in this episode, to be honest. But, yeah, at least he's not abusing her like he was in that first
It
appearance.
It seemed like it was trying to say, oh, well, he kind of cared about her deep down, which just it feels like that's what we were kind of supposed to be getting from that, in his own weird way. But I don't know. It's just an issue I've always got with Mayuri. I actually think some of his later stuff is kind of funny, but just he's so over the top evil in his initial appearance. It's weird. It's such a weird dissonance.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe. So I don't know. We've gotten all of that, but yeah, it was interesting. I guess for once you can say, oh yeah, Mayuri, he won technically, but really it was Nemu who actually did the stuff. So he actually wasn't, the one who had all the perfect answers this time around.
Yeah.
This is also the second time an enemy has been beaten because it tried to absorb Nemu. The first one was Cesaro Paul, the white guy you were talking about. That's how he's beaten.
Right.
All right. Yeah, that's Bleach. Then I guess it looks like from the preview we'll be getting back into the other fight that was going on that actually I think we might have been thought was over, but it's still going to go on. So yeah, all right. So we've got all right, time for the new shows on Toonami at least. We got Blue Lock, episode 1.
Okay, so Yoichi is a soccer player who has a chance to win a game with a SOP, but he decides to pass it, and the guy he passes it to misses the shot, and the other team comes down and scores. He loses 2-0, and he's feeling pretty bad. And then he gets this invitation to this weird thing called Blue Lock, where they're going to go and make you a great soccer player. So he goes there, and then he ends up finding out with all these other hundreds of people that this guy named Ego is conducting an experiment where he wants to find the next great striker for Japan. But his way of playing soccer is not the best way you win World Cups, but I guess all he wants is a striker. So he gets all these people to go in there, and their first test is a game of tag where they kick the ball at each other, and whoever ends up with it last loses. And as it turns out, the guy who had been all friendly to Yoichi ends up as the last guy with the ball, so he's going to be sent home, and that'll be the last we'll ever hear of him, maybe. And That's the episode. Yeah.
Yeah. This is if anyone, I guess this is your first time listening to us, you wouldn't know. We actually watched the show on our own a while ago, but now it's on Toonami, so we're rewatching it. And I guess the interesting thing would be to discuss what we thought of this episode the second time around. I think it's interesting. I was thinking that the episode just ended with them go about to start to sort of take thing, but it went on. It ended with like the conclusion of that, which I think was good. It got through the it got through some of that stuff, and I think that made a better spot to end off for the episode to try to entice you to get in more.
I thought it was
Also,
great.
yeah.
I really enjoyed this episode this time around. I by knowing what happened, you kind of are able to see things that you didn't see the first time around. So that was a real positive for me.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I like this more than when the first time through. I think, yeah, I do remember because the guy who got eliminated, who's basically gone after the next episode. I thought that he was the white-haired guy that was, in like all the promotional material. Like, oh yeah, he's the main character. Wait, he's gone? Oh, was that a fake out? And it was only later on I realized, oh no, that's a different white hair guy. That's Nagi.
Mm-hmm.
That's all that stuff. I just got them mixed up. Yeah. Yeah, I really think that was a smart spot to end the episode. I was curious. I looked back at the manga chapters. Where this ends is actually midway through the second chapter. So the original first chapter of the manga ends with everyone rushing in after, Ego wins them over. I thought that so I think it was a good plan to kind of try to go through that stuff a bit faster in order to get to that, because that first chapter is pretty long, just to be clear. It's not a regular sized one. So
Right.
yeah, that's all I have to say. A good start, and I definitely think it's more interesting the second time around.
Yeah.
Oh, and also they didn't cut out the additional time segment.
No. Kept that in there.
Yeah, I was thinking they were going to, but they didn't. So that's kind of nice. All right. Then we'll move on to the other new show, Tokyo Revengers. So basically the plot is that this how old was he? I think like 20, he was in his 20s or whatever. He finds out that his former girlfriend from high school and her brother got killed in some sort of gang war or whatever. And then he gets shoved onto the into the way of a subway while he's waiting for it. But contrary to what you might think, Being X does not show up to talk to him, unlike in Tanya the Evil. Instead, he gets warped back in time like 12 years to when he was in high school, and basically was sort of in a group of people who kind of considered themselves a gang, but were nowhere near as strong as they thought they were because they just get beaten up by this older group. Anyway, he thinks this whole thing is just his life flashing before his eyes, but he does end up telling his girlfriend's younger brother, oh, by the way, you and her die in like 12 years, so you might want to, stop that. And then he just gets, and then and then he gets brought back to the present. Suddenly, he actually survived the whole thing, and he meets that brother character who says, yeah, because of what you told me, I, became a police officer, and that saved my life, and I was able to save yours. But bad news, my sister's still dead, so we're going to have to do something about that. So that final bit was definitely a shift, because I just assumed the series was going to all be like, him trying to fix stuff in the past, but he got warped to the present. So I guess the series is going to be kind of like it sort of like Steins Gate, in which you're trying to meddle with the past to change the future, but like you're not totally in the past, but you are going more than in Steins Gate, I guess. That's at least the impression I got from it. So that final thing did make it a little more interesting. I don't know how this time travel is going to work, but that's basically how it goes. I think it was okay. It wasn't like super interesting to me. It definitely was not as good as Blue Lock, but I think it was, I guess, a satisfactory first episode. But oh boy, did they say the S word a lot in this.
I had a big problem with this episode, which was that it just seemed so cliched and so. It felt like I'd seen this so many times before. Now, I'll give it credit for that change at the end whenever he actually does go back to like that was to normal to present time. That was a pretty good change up because everything else in this episode came off as ultra cliche and been there, done that kind of stuff, and I was getting really bored. So whenever they had that last twist, that was like, okay, I can at least see this show improving. I'm going to give it a chance. Um, it may not have started out that great, but it's got potential. So we'll wait and see on it.
Yes, the switch back to the president at the end of the first episode. That was a very good choice because for the reasons you were saying, like the whole time loop thing, it's an interesting idea, but there have been so many series done it that have done it now. Like how many, especially more recently. I can't blame this show for the fact there's been so many more series with that premise recently, but it does make you feel more. It feels so much more tired, even if it's not entirely its fault. Like there's been at least like last year, I think there were 2 series with that premise. There was well, wait, was Seventh Time Loop from what series was that, from last year or the year before? Let me check. Yes, seventh time loop. The villainess enjoys a carefree life, married to her worst enemy. Which, by the way, is not even an accurate title because she's not a villainess and she does not live a carefree life. So it's weird.
Mm.
I only saw a few episodes. It was okay, and then the other one was, what was it, like the do-over damsel conquers the dragon emperor. Those are 2 from last year that were all about that, like, premise of just going back a bunch of years to some point where something happened and you got to avoid it. So we're seeing Tokyo Revengers after that, but once again, this one, the switching back and forth, that could make it a lot more interesting. We'll see. What other series are there that have this sort of warp back in time thing? I'm sure there's got to be a bunch of other anime with this premise. It's one of those ones that just, got popular and then a bunch of places, things did it because, light novels just copy other light novels. Okay. Yeah, nothing else to say about that. All right, One Piece episode 763. All right, so and guys, they capture Sanji and Brook and Nami with the castle fruit, and he basically tells Sanji that, hey, you're invited to this wedding, which is where you're going to be the groom, and you're going to be marrying like one of Big Mom's daughters. So there's a bunch of like talking about stuff from Sanji's backstory, and there's a whole lot of staring between the characters, and basically Sanji doesn't want to, but then he says, well, I've got all this power in here, so I'm just going to kill your friends if you don't. So yeah, I can't remember if Sanji relents completely or not. But this episode ends with both of them staring at each other a bunch, which is a convenient way to pad it out. Like I said, there's a lot of staring in this episode.
Yeah, lots of padding, lots of it, especially at the end. But now, is this all flashback or was this actually happening live?
We're still in a flashback.
Okay, that's what I thought. Uh yeah, so basically, well, uh Sanji has gotten himself into trouble again, and I don't know how much of this stuff is that he's being told is actually the truth. Probably is the truth, and of course, as usual, as I always say, anytime you have an arranged marriages are always evil. So, um, it this is an arranged marriage, so it has to be depicted as a terrible thing. And yeah, lots of staring at each other and burning time with long, long responses to each other. Um, Padding, and that's One Piece.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you were right, especially at the end. That was when it was really blatant of it just,
Yeah.
having them stare at each other. Hang on, I didn't check. Let's see how much of a chapter this episode actually adapted. Let's see. This was episode 763, and that covers oh wow. This one adapts basically nearly half of two separate chapters. So surprisingly, despite the padding being even more obvious, this one actually adapted pretty much a full chapter in total. I'm surprised. All right. Okay, so we then leave the Toonami series for now. We're on to Yu Yu Hakusho episode 94, end of this arc. So basically, it's just wrap up. All the other the guys who were working for Sensui, well, they're all just go off and do stuff. Even like the really evil ones apparently just get off. Like the doctor guy, who is like a serial killer. Well, he just like gets plastic surgery to make himself look different, and apparently becomes good at this point because he actually helps people. So we got that. Other than that, everyone just kind of returns to the regular life. Hiei, in case anyone was wondering, because Hiei wanted that chapter black video, well, he just destroys it because, I don't know, he just does. It's never really explained why he wanted it to just destroy it, but he did. So really, the episode's mostly just wrap up. But hey, if you were curious about what the birthdays and blood types of all of Sensui's minions were, you get to know all of them.
As if we cared.
That's like a thing that a bunch of like, not necessarily in the series itself, but so many like manga when they in the volumes where they have stuff giving information about like the characters, so many of them will always give their birth date and their blood type. It's just kind of weird. That's just a thing that a bunch of like series in Japan do, but usually it's not like directly in the episode itself. So this, I guess, brings us to the end of, again, the other really big arc of the series, Chapter Black. And so I guess I'll say, what did you think of it? I think on the whole, it was pretty solid. I don't really know if I'd put it a better or worse than Dark Tournament. I kind of feel it's better in some ways, worse in some ways. I feel like it kind of averages out to be, I think, about the same as that. So, and I ended up enjoying it on the rewatch through, and I finally got to see the episodes that I missed the first time around.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. I liked those video game part of the arc the best. That was the best, and some of Yusuke's lines. That the part about Yusuke can't kill anyone, that's ridiculous, and that was annoying. And all the death fake outs were also kind of annoying. And the fact that the bad guy gets a happy ending, that really pisses me off. But aside from those things, I think it was a fairly good uh, arc, and it's passable. And yeah, we can now move into the final arc and see what else Yu Yu Hakusho has to offer.
Yeah, I can't remember too much about. Well, I can remember some things. All I just know is that everyone says, that's the weakest part of the series. So I guess we'll see if that's true or not, or if this is one of those things where, oh, well, no, after all that, it was actually pretty decent. A few quick comments. I don't know if I'd say the bad guy got exactly the ending. He's just kind of, I don't know. Isn't he basic since he's dead? Isn't he basically just going to be like unconscious permanently, just with that other guy with him? So I don't know. That's not really happy or sad. It's just kind of there. I guess the other one, a guy who was with Sensui because he liked Sensui, is more happy about it. But yeah, that it was a little confusing what was happening there. I did still like, although speaking of, I did like the part where what did Yusuke said, dying's good for me. I get tougher every time I come back. Oh, and now we can officially say, because you wondered about it, I made sure to make a note. Though you were wondering, so why did we spend that time establishing they had those things that told you if the others were safe or not? Are they ever going to be used again? Apparently not, because they're never mentioned again.
Well, that's good. Uh, uh, yeah, I was really wondering about that, and so much that I even forgot about that. So, boy, what a
I just put I only remembered because I explicitly wrote a note to myself that to make sure I would remember.
Mhm.
All right. So yeah, I think solid. Overall, pretty solid. It's definitely not like I don't think Yu Yu Hakusho on all this rewatch is like amazing, but it's a solid show. It's
Mhm.
pretty consistently solid. It's I don't know, like it just, and sometimes that's all you really need to do. I know it's so weird to say, well, it's solid but not amazing when I put it number one for last year. But once again, it's the only it's a series that had the highest lows of all of them, and that counted for a lot for me. So we're done with that. We'll be moving on to the final section of Yu Yu Hakusho next, but for now, we'll go into Gnosia episode 11.
Okay, so this episode, um, Yuri is back to original form, and Yuri spends a ton of time with SQ. I guess you could call it the SQ episode. And Yuri learns a lot about SQ, and they figure things out, and they beat the Gnosia. But obviously, that doesn't mean anything because Yuri's going right back to the loop. So, yeah, I found this episode to be quite entertaining because of how interesting SQ is. But at the same time, it felt a little bit like it wasn't as exciting as some of the other episodes have been. It seemed too easy for Yuri this time. So, and the fact that she always goes back to the loop anyway is starting to make me care less about whether she wins the Gnosia battle or not, whether she survives because, or he survives or whatever, because whether Yuri
I thought you were
survives.
talking about SQ because you kept saying she.
Oh, yeah. I don't know what I'm saying. Um, yeah. So, yeah, I don't really have anything else.
Yeah, this was. Yeah, in this and I think some other episodes, it seems like the actual Gnosia plot takes a bit of a backseat to other stuff involving the characters, which as I understand, that's like the main plot of the game isn't really the finding the Gnosia. That's just that just helps you progress it. The plot is involving all the other characters. I was kind of curious. So, like I just said, okay, I want to watch a little bit of this game now just to like better get a handle on the gameplay. I only watched a little of some of the earlier stuff, but I was thinking when I was looking at it, I was realizing, oh wow, the meanings are like made way more complex in the anime. Your like input abilities are much smaller in the game. So there's that. But yeah, the episode is mostly all about just telling you everything about SQ's backstory, which is more or less that she's basically got Ray's backstory from Evangelion, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah.
She was she's basically a sort of clone for this person who wanted to transfer her mind to her or one of the others, but the thing went wrong, so they kind of merged into one, except for some of the timelines where apparently it did work, and those are the ones where SQ is more like mean to what's his name? The really timid guy. I can't remember his name. And that's the explanation for why they have that relationship sometime. And yeah, also this marks the third time a character has declared themselves to be in love with Yuri. So Yuri, I don't know. I made a joke before about how Yuri has a harem. I don't know if this quite counts because they're never the simultaneous love interest because things keep resetting. So I don't know. Like does Shiro Emiya in Fate Stay Night, does he have a harem? Because you got 3 love interests, but only one of them is ever his love interest at a time. In each of the 3 routes, he only has one love interest for that route. So I don't know how that works for Gnosia. Yeah. All right. Anything else to say?
Nope. No.
All right. So we got that. We'll see where Gnosia goes next episode. But for now, once again, we're moving on to episode 11 of May I Ask for One Final Thing?
Okay, so I'm not as good on this episode, I have to admit. I don't remember it as well. I know that they're still fighting this war and that the one guy starts hitting on Scarlet again, so she gets mad again. And there's some other stuff, and yeah, I'm blanking. Do you know it better than me?
Well, the basic thing is, yeah, so there's a big war thing. There's a bunch of fighting. As they managed to drive off the elves because one of the characters basically tells them, yeah, I'll give you this important thing to me if you ally with us or at least leave them alone. The big thing, I guess, is that the main characters, yeah, they seem to have managed to at least win the immediate stuff, and Terraneza. Yeah, and she's not going to be able to launch a new attack for several days. And that's kind of where we are now. It mostly was just kind of resolving, I guess, the fighting stuff. Yeah, I think that's
I
kind
thought
of.
it was. I thought it was a pretty boring episode, to be honest.
Yeah, I feel like there was some stuff I enjoyed, but a bunch of it was kind of on the more boring side, yes. All right. So we've got Spy Family episode 43. So the first one is a story about, the first half is a story about how Lloyd's boss at his psychiatrist job doesn't like Lloyd, so he tries to do stuff to mess things up for him, including trying to frame him for crimes. Lloyd manages to survive it and ends up basically, because the guys he thought were the police that were coming were actually just, some of Lloyd's allies pretending to be it. They managed to basically set it up so that the guy ends up thinking Lloyd helped him with the secret police. And now he likes Lloyd and Zena's dead and everything is perfectly resolved there. Then the second half is about them going on this basically school field trip. So they're in the bus, except then the bus gets hijacked by some hijackers who take all the kids hostage. And yeah, first we did have a bunch of really funny, wacky stuff with Anya, and then it as the character says in Anchorman, that escalated quickly. I've never seen that movie. I just know that scene.
Yeah, well,
So,
go ahead.
okay. I was going to say the first one half it was okay. The second half was more interesting. I especially like just what Anya's imagination of how when that situation where Damien calls her ugly and then she needs to be arrested, and then Anya says he's the ugly one, arrest him, and then the guy's going, she's right, you are ugly, and tries to arrest him, but then Anya tells, no, you shouldn't do that, he's just mean, and then they let Damien go, and Damien's like, I like you. And this has just all been in her imagination. That was really funny.
Yeah, I found the first half of this episode to be a lot better than the second half. Because of Nightfall. Nightfall was very funny in this episode, and she really provided a lot of entertainment. And I'm starting to really like her. Like, even though she's kind of Yor's rival, basically. I love how she still calls Yor Briar, and won't call her by her married name, fake marriage name, that is. But yeah, and I love how they came up with that crazy idea to uh, frame Lloyd as this guy who's been cheating, and then it turns out that whenever they arrest him, um, it's all just a ploy, and the old man, he falls for every single bit of it, and it was just really funny. I really enjoyed that. Second part, I have no idea why Lloyd would think the best way of doing things is by hijacking a bus with a gun. That doesn't make sense. Like, if his whole goal is to keep the peace, that's
Wait, that's
probably not the
Lloyd.
best way
That
to
wasn't
do.
Lloyd. He didn't hijack anything. That was a completely new character.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm 100% sure that's not Lloyd.
Okay. So, yeah, I didn't care for that second part of the episode that much, but um yeah, we'll see what happens from here.
Okay. All right. I don't know, just that imagination bit from Anya. I just thought it was so funny, especially because all of them keep saying "uggo." They don't say ugly; they say "uggo," and that was very funny to me. All right, so after that, we got My Hero Academia Vigilantes episode 18, and so in this episode, finally Knuckle Duster shows up again. So the first thing, though, is that they're trying to figure out, like, first Midnight shows up, who goes undercover with Pop Step in order to try to figure out who's distributing trigger the trigger thing that makes your quirks act haywire, because someone's distributing them at mixers. And yeah, so that manages to work, and they managed to figure it out, and that's all resolved. Also, Koichi just happened to randomly be there and didn't know any of that was going on. Yeah. Then the big thing, though, is we do start focusing on Eraserhead. I mean, he shows up, but the other thing is Knuckle Duster. He shows up, and he's wait. Yes, that's him. Okay, now I got it. That's him. And we also find out that we just assumed he didn't have a quirk. No, he did have one, but he lost it. So we find that out. That's a big thing. I just assumed he was like Deku, but no, he did have one and doesn't have it. Anyway, he's just trying to go through some investigations in Hong Kong. He doesn't run across any of the characters from Shenmue, though, although this takes place far in the future. So, and yeah, then there's basically that. He finds out a bunch of he shows up, he interacts some with his daughter, and continues with trying to do some of his figuring things out, because that other guy, apparently the speedy one, I don't know if he is using his quirk or just a similar one. I can't quite remember which one it was or if it explained that, but either way, we get that. Also, he barely misses seeing Koichi and Pop Step. So yeah, he's back, even though he hasn't actually interacted with the other main characters.
Yeah, so Knuckle Duster isn't dead after all. So that's something. I wasn't a big fan of this episode, but yeah, I just have felt like this season hasn't had a real direction to it yet. It's like it's still finding itself. So I'm gonna wait a couple episodes before I make a judgment on whether it's been a good second season or a bad one. We have to see if we're gonna get a good plot to this. Right now, it's in that feeling out process. So, this may not have been a great episode, but it's still possible it could get better.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, like it's just one of those things where I think about. I'm like, yeah, there's some interesting stuff, but the way it all came together wasn't all that great. Like Knuckle Duster, it's nice to have him be back, but he doesn't really do that much. I mean, he does stuff, but like in terms of progression, he's just kind of around. In the first half, with them doing at the mixer, just kind of happened. It just kind of felt like the episode was sort of like stuff happened, but at the same time, it like kind of feels like a bunch of this kind of could have been skipped over with just like a few the important things explained later. Okay. All right, and that's it. We're done with My Hero Academia Vigilantes and the rest, and that's all of our series. So I guess we can just say what our favorites were.
Yeah, so for me this week, it's Blue Lock for Toonami, it's Spy Family for non-Toonami, and it's Nightfall as the best girl of the week.
Toonami is a tough one for me. There were several series that I really liked. I really liked Primal, although maybe I'm just cutting it a lot of slack because I found it so much more interesting than the last two episodes. So, and I liked Blue Lock, but I don't know how much of that is the fact that I'm rewatching it, because I wasn't huge on it the first time through. I mean, I liked it, but I didn't like it as much. But I'll give it to Blue Lock. Okay. Then for the non-Toonami series, we've got... this is another tricky one. The big possibilities are Gnosia and Spy Family for me. I think... what Anya's imagination sequence wins it out. Spy Family gets it.
So for one of the only times ever, we have both the same picks for each one. That does not happen very often, if ever. So looking at the count now for the year, Blue Exorcist with 3, Bleach with 2, Blue Lock with 1. That's in the Toonami category. And in the non-Toonami category, Gnosia leads with 3, Spy Family now has 2, Yu Yu Hakusho has 1. Those are only mine. Those are not yours. But there you have it. That's the current standings.
I really should be keeping track of mine, but unfortunately I don't know which ones I picked. So that's all of the shows we watched for this week. And anything else to talk about?
No.
All right. Well, that's been our episode then. So we're going to be having the same slate of shows for next week. So we'll see you all then.
Bye.
All your favorite superheroes banded together for a common cause. Punching, kicking, and beating all villains into submission.
And then everything explodes!
Oh, and world peace and all that.
Oh, that is just wrong.
Catch a new episode of Justice League Unlimited, Saturday night at 10:30.
Yeah, it'll be great.
True.
K-pop.
That's our cue.
Only Toonami on Cartoon Network.